Jerry Douglas says playing for Jackson feels like stepping up to the Ryman, one of those tent poles that holds the whole thing up. He's a 16-time Grammy winner who has recorded on more than 1,600 albums across virtually every American genre, and the man who helped redefine what a dobro could do. Hey, it's Paul Wolf with the front row seat to conversations on culture from Jackson, Mississippi. We call our podcast Soul Sessions. It's the people, places, and events that make the city with soul shine. On today's show, we're sitting down with Jerry Douglas, the one and only, from Alison, Krauss in Union Station, and a board member of the National Council for the Traditional Arts, ahead of his performance at the National Folk Festival, November 13th through 15th in Jackson. His latest album, The Set, his first solo release in 7 years, captures exactly what makes him irreplaceable, a player who's always adapting and always feels at home. Welcome, Jerry Douglas, to Soul Sessions.
Thank you very much. It's really a great pleasure to be here.
We're so happy that you'll be in Jackson in November for the National Folk Festival, the 83rd edition, the second year of Jackson's residency out of 3 years. I want to start by asking you about your musical career. You've played on over 1,600 albums across virtually every American musical genre, from bluegrass to country to rock to jazz, even Celtic music. So when you look back at that body of work, is there a through line you see there? Is there something that you're consistently chasing with your music?
Well, I'm always trying to adapt to a situation, is what I seem to be doing. I mean, and I learned that in recording in the studio by, every day going in and doing a 3-hour session and moving on to the next one and then to the next one. And, in Nashville, it's set up, it's as 10 to 1, 2 to 5, and then the 6 o'clock guys come in. I think the through line is just that, me adapting to situations, and you get really good at that in the studio when things are thrown at you fast and you have to come up with something coherent and something that will fit into the song. I think of it all as like painting. So we're sort of painting around a subject and whatever the subject matter is of the song, things like that. There's so many things you think about while you're recording. But I've also come back in and replaced my fair share of saxophones on country records who thought they'd gone too far from country. So bring Jerry in the dobro and we'll bring it back toward country a little bit, things like that. But I've been really lucky in the artists that I got to play with and the labels that I've been hooked up with, like Rounder and Sugar Hill and, and all the majors as well. But the independents have been, pretty much the lifeblood of what I do. And it's been a nice career of playing with really nice people and playing good music and of all kinds. People have asked if there are any kind of any genre that I hadn't played in, and I would say rap, because I hadn't. I felt like I'd done just about everything else. And then along came a band called Gangsta Grass. And it was 2 rappers, banjo, the fellow that did all the sound, all the music for Justified on the TV series. And he was sort of the leader of the band. And there was a fiddle player and a banjo player. And just churned. And this thing was like relentless. It was called The Only Way Out Is Through. And I was on their first single that they released. So I checked the big box of rap. I checked that box off. So now I'm waiting for the next one, whatever that is.
And it's coming, right? Somebody else is going to ask you to play on a hip hop record.
It's coming. Yeah, I played on a lot of crazy stuff during COVID because, everybody knew that every musician in the world was sitting. No one was going anywhere. So I had played on records from the Bob Dylan of Venezuela and, and all kinds of people who would reached out who would normally not reach out for somebody like me.
Well, Jerry, your instrument of choice is one called the dobro. And people that aren't familiar with that, it's like a lap steel. It looks like an acoustic guitar, but it's a resonator. It has this kind of steel guitar sound. Was there a moment early in your career when you realized you weren't just playing the dobro, that you actually were going to reinvent that instrument?
Well, I'd never thought of it that way, but the dobro is the forerunner of the steel guitar and of the lap steel and then the pedal steel guitar. It was created by five Czechoslovakian brothers in the late 1920s, of all places in California, where they had emigrated to. And their last name was Dopiera. So the Dopiera brothers became Dobro. And it was synonymous with Hawaiian music for the longest time. And then blues artists started finding it. And it was a guitar that was equal to the volume of their voice. So it made it easier to compete, to go ahead and sing out and not cover their guitar so much, because this thing could put out some volume. And then it found its way into country music and into bluegrass music through Josh Graves, who was the guy that I copied. He played with Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs and the Foggy Mountain Boys. And I'd wake up every morning listening to him on my stereo at home. Before I'd go to school, my dad would go off to the steel mill where we would hear some Flatt and Scruggs every morning.
You've built multiple musical worlds, Alison, Krauss and Union Station, the Earls of Leicester, Transatlantic Sessions, and the Jerry Douglas Band. You once told CBS's Anthony Mason that the sound of Alison Krauss and Union Station is one foot in bluegrass that never comes out. Is that the anchor that no matter how far the music goes, there's always something that keeps it rooted?
I think it is bluegrass that keeps us rooted. We all come from that crop of players, and that lean that way, but it allows us to bring in other genres of music to mix with the bluegrass. We know it by heart, but it's the other things that that give us a little more broad appeal maybe to audiences, where we don't play just straight bluegrass all the time, but we could. If it was demanded of us, we could do that, but we prefer to mix in, there are so many different genres mixed into the music that we play and different ways of thinking about it. I think about it as it's jazz in a lot of ways too, in the structure of you start with the head of the tune and you move through the tune with different solos, and you always come back to the head of the tune. And it's so we dabble in a lot of different things throughout a show. We put our toe in, but our foot never comes out of bluegrass. I guess I could say that again.
If you're just joining us, we're with Jerry Douglas, world-renowned dobro player, who will play at the National Folk Festival, the 83rd edition in Jackson, Mississippi, November 13th through 15th. Jerry, you serve on the board of directors for the National Council for the Traditional Arts, the organization that produces this folk festival. How did that relationship start? How has your role evolved from performer to someone helping to guide the organization's mission?
Well, I started out with the NCTA by forming a real great relationship. My friend Joe Wilson, who was doing the groundwork for NCTA for many, many years and was the chief officer there. And watching him, he went on a trip. We went around the world once. I was playing with the Whites, which was like a country bluegrass act. And Ricky Skaggs was on it as well, and D.L. Menard from Louisiana, and John Jackson, a blues player from Piedmont, from over in Virginia. And we were in Thailand. We went to Chiang Mai in Thailand, and Joe went to Cambodia and got the Khmer Rouge Ballet Company out of a refugee camp, and flew them to Washington, D.C. We always figured that Joe was in the CIA or something, but no, he was just a guy who was helping another musical genre, some people who were in really harm's way, getting them out of there. But it's my relationship with NCTA started with Joe and went through Julia Olin and everybody that's been there. And a lot of musicians have gone through there as people who would stand up for the NCTA. And I just think it's a wonderful thing. And they bring this festival to a different city every 3 years. I've played the one in Lowell, Massachusetts, the one in Richmond, Virginia, and Bangor, Maine, and Butte, Montana, and now in Jackson, which they have a chance to get this festival going in their town. And the NCTA will help them with it for 3 years, and then it's theirs. Then they hand it off to them, and they have this festival that they can do every year. It's got, that has all of its pieces in place, and it helps the town, it helps the city, and that's why I love the NCTA. Is it doesn't have any borders. There are no borders with it. It's just music that happens within the United States, and it's different cultures. It supports basket weaving, indigenous arts, which are hard to find and are leaving us at great rates. But they stand up and support people like that, and they supported me. I'm a fellow of from in 2006. I was a fellow from the Honors Endowment, and it does some really great things for people all over the country.
Yeah, folk means different things to different people. So, what does keeping it alive mean to you? Not as a philosophy, but as something you actually do.
Well, it keeps my music alive in one way, and the roots of my music probably came over from Scotland and Ireland and England, and found its way through Appalachia and into my home. And I want to promote something like that. I want everyone to have that opportunity to hear all of these different kinds of music. And at the festival there in Jackson, people will have a chance to go there and see things that they would normally not see at a festival. All these different kinds of music, all rooted in American music, Native American, French Canadian, French Cajun music, Zydeco, blues, bluegrass. They're all American musics, and you put in all the people who aren't playing music but are NCTA is protecting what they do for a living. It may be basket weaving, it may be something totally that you didn't think of, but it's an endangered species of some kind. It sort of gives them a head up. It gives them a foot up to keeping their art alive, and that's what we're all about, is keeping arts alive.
You use the term endangered species. And so I'm going to ask you, there's always seems to be a tension between preservation and evolution with traditions, right? And so is it your job to protect the form or to push it forward?
It's both. I've always pushed the envelope, and if I hadn't, I wouldn't have been able to play it with all these different amazing musicians that I have, from John McLaughlin and Zakir Hussain to, James Taylor and all of these different people. I see that my job is to push the envelope while respecting the tradition, because I'm a traditional guy at heart, but I just can't leave it alone. I'm always trying to make it better or add something to it, something they didn't think of then. I might be able to raise an opportunity for someone else.
The National Folk Festival comes to Jackson, Mississippi, November 13th through 15th. Jerry, for somebody who's never been to the National Folk Festival, how would you describe it, what it actually is?
It's a total family affair. I mean, it's something you could bring your kids to, or just come and be curious and come and check out the different stages, the dance stages, the arts and crafts places, and not just the music that's on the main stage, but things in the periphery. It wakes you up to a lot of new ideas and things you'd never thought of before that are happening right there in your town, that are brought in. They've been there forever, but they were just under the surface. Maybe you didn't know about them. It's a good place for curious people, and for families, it's all out to be. I'm sure there'll be somebody there to paint faces and things like that. But also, there's all this great music and all of these wonderful entertainers and these people who are really trying to hang on to the traditions of their own cultures, and bringing them all to Jackson, melting them all down right there in one place. We're all the same. We're all the same.
You being on the National Council for Traditional Arts, you know that bringing a festival to a city is a really intentional choice. So, what does it mean to bring it to Jackson, Mississippi specifically?
There are cities that vie for it, that call in to see if they could possibly be, and then a team goes out and does a survey of different cities that come onto that roster of want to have a festival in their city, the people who do. And Jackson was an obvious choice because it's right there in the deep South, and we really want to bring and build up the music that lives there in that city. Plus, bring some things to people who actually live in the city but did not know about these people that are playing everywhere and how special they are and what an amazing treasure you have right there in your city. Plus, bring in all of these other cultures to examine and kind of check out. There's always something new that you can find out, especially at a festival like this, which is so broad in its scope, but is rooted in the soul of the city. We try to root it in the soul of the city, so everybody has a little something in common with it right away, and then they can get in a little deeper, take a look around, and see what all's there, and it'll surprise you what it brings out.
Well, Mississippi is the birthplace of America's music, and there's so many layers here. There's blues and gospel, and of course, soul music as well. And as somebody who has spent your career at the intersection of American roots traditions, what do you make of what's happening here culturally?
Well, I see a city that has some turmoil, just like any other city, but I think that Jackson needs to come. It needs to come together and recognize what it has there. That's the kind of city we love putting a festival because it stirs the imaginations and it brings out some strengths that the city didn't know it had. And it's an eye opening experience to bring a big festival like this that lasts for 3 days downtown. It's a spectacle, and it's something for everybody to come and see. No one should stay away. There's something there for everybody.
Yeah, bluegrass has always had a storytelling tradition to it. It's music about real people and real places. The National Folk Festival's theme here, I think you'll like this, is Jackson's Got Good Folk. And it plays on that word folk, talking about, the people themselves. Does that resonate with you? Is there a connection between music and community that comes from something you think about when you're on a stage like this one?
Well, yeah, I would be thinking about all of the culture and all of the blues giants that have come from Mississippi, that have played right there in Jackson, and I feel great about following them on the stage in Jackson. It's just like you say, it's the birthplace of America's music, and it was hard fought, and it still is, and sometimes it was taken advantage of, but no, we're here to put it back in its high place.
Jerry, for someone in Jackson or in Mississippi, the Southeast, the country in general, who might be on the fence about coming out to the National Folk Festival in November, what's your pitch to them?
My pitch is there is going to be something there that you're going to love. You have to go in search of it. It's like anything else, you get bored with the status quo, you go out in search of something new. And this is that. This is what you want to see because this is so broad and so eye-opening. There's going to be something there that you're going to love. And why not give yourself that opportunity? Get out there and take a chance on something. I know it may be a stretch for some people to go, oh, they're having a festival downtown. Don't want to go downtown. Well, just go. Just go. Just, don't stay away from something that's going to take your imagination and just spin it. There's so many great things that are going to be there, so many things to see and to hear and to just experience. It's worth the trip downtown. And if I lived there, I would go just to see what's going to be there because the National Council for Traditional Arts, they put on a great show. And the people of Jackson have been really, really great to work with. This is going to be a great year for for Jackson and for the festival. And I'm really anxious to play there because of my connections to Mississippi and all the different kinds of music that I play. I'm going to bring them all, and I know there'll be a lot of other bands there that are thinking the same thing I am, and just getting the opportunity to play for the people of Jackson and, who have such a revered history and in music, especially in the blues and just, the wonderful things that have come out of there. We want to celebrate that.
He's a world-renowned dobro player. He'll be in Jackson, Mississippi the weekend of November 13th through 15th, and a board member of the National Council of the Traditional Arts, who puts on the National Folk Festival. Jerry Douglas, thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. I'm so happy you asked me to come on, Poets. It's been a great opportunity to talk to you and the people of Jackson. I'm really excited to come there and play because it's like going to play the Opry. It's like going to play the Ryman. These places are tent poles all around the country, and Jackson is definitely one of them.
That is the masterful Jerry Douglas, whose story is about the discipline of serving the song, how showing up ready to paint around whatever subject lands in front of you, session after session, is its own kind of genius. He'll tell you the through line across 1,600 albums isn't a genre, it's adaptability. Somehow, every time, it sounds just like him. The Set, his first solo album in 7 years, is out now. The full live range of the Jerry Douglas Band on record. We'll have links in our show notes to that project and to the National Folk Festival at visitjackson.com/Soul Sessions. Soul Sessions comes to you from Visit Jackson, the destination organization for Jackson, Mississippi, the city with soul. Our executive producers are Jonathan Pettis and Dr. Ricky Thigpen, and I'm Paul Wolf, managing editor and your host for these conversations. Keep up with everything happening in the city with soul at visitjackson.com. And if you have a question about Jackson or a story idea you'd like us to explore, send it our way. My email address is pwolf, that's wolf with no E, at visitjackson.com. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.